Okay, we're on to our next round of local jurisdictions, and we've got some women, which is great. Break up this dude fest. We're going to change the order around slightly due to we're running a little bit late, and so there was a scheduling issue. So Cynthia Hogan, who's the chair of the St. John's Hospital Board, is going to go first, and then Dave Adams, and then Kate Mead and Chris. Welcome. In the interest of expanding the idea of one community spanning 2 states and 3 counties, we're super fortunate to have the chair of the Teton County, Idaho School Board with us as well this year.
Thank you. Hello to you all. I'm Kate Mead, and I'm the chair of the Teton County School District Board of Trustees. The state of our jurisdiction, it's a lovely topic because it got me thinking about it once again. I was delighted to see in the Compass catalog that's on everybody's table and at their place that they had my speech from last year, so I won't repeat that one. Also in the Compass are a lot of statistics about proficiency levels, enrollment levels, and all sorts of good stuff about our schools, so I would draw your attention to that. The first thing I want to do is give a huge shout out to the great people who work in the Teton County School District. We are the second largest employer in Teton County, next to the hospital, and we have wonderful people who work for us. The educators in our school district, I think, are just top-notch. We have fantastic administration and fantastic folks in our staff, so I'd like to give them a real big shout-out. The Teton County Board of Education is an elected body. Most of you know that, but sometimes people who are newer to town don't know that. And we are an unpaid volunteer body. I would say to you that one of my greatest pleasures has been chairing that board, particularly for the last 2 years. We have wonderful people on our board who are trying very hard to make sure that our kids get the very best education possible in our community. We don't always agree. We are always civil. And that's important to me because we must pattern for our children what civil dialogue is on boards and commissions. So our vision of the Teton County School District is, as a premier district, our vision is to ensure every student is prepared to succeed in an ever-changing world. How are we going to do that? Well, as time has gone on, we've had an abundance of testing in the state of Wyoming. Most testing from year to year has been a different test. So apples and oranges over the years. So it's been very difficult to get a real handle on just how well our students have been doing. Under No Child Left Behind, which, as many of you know, was a little bit punitive. If your schools didn't reach certain levels after a period of time, your students were potentially able to get a voucher to go to a different school. We don't have many different schools here in Teton County. If you want to go to public school. The new Every Student Succeeds Act is much more aimed at enabling schools through different grant programs and that sort of thing to improve the quality of their teaching as well as the proficiency of their students. I asked our people to pull up some of our proficiency standards from this year's pause, which is difficult to compare to last year's. But one of the things that I found most disturbing was that our reading at 3rd grade in Teton County School District is at 56.5% proficiency. I think very good. There are a lot of reasons for that, but it is not good. I think I said last year, and I'll say it again, that only 15% people in our prison system today can read at a 3rd grade level. So you can see how very important it is that children read well very nearly immediately. It's very important for us because we have, after the kindergarten, first grade, we have them for an additional 11 years. And we want them to be able to push on and to do better and better all through those years. And for our school district not to have to be constantly doing remediation because children didn't get how to read at a first or second grade level. So we have instituted a program called Reading Recovery. It's a very intensive program. First graders work in groups. Those children that are having a hard time reading, very intensive, 30 minutes a day for 6 to 11 weeks, and they learn to read. They do. It's astonishing. Why we haven't done this before, why isn't it being done all over our nation, is really a mystery to me. So we have 42% of our kindergartners enter our school district do not speak English. So we have a lot of English language learners that we're working with. Reading Recovery works for all kids, whether they're English speakers or not. I think this is going to make an amazing difference. So what we have done is we have our Success 22 agenda for our school district is that every third grader is going to be a proficient reader and mathematician, every eighth grader a proficient writer, and every graduate life ready. In order to reach this goal, which may not sound lofty, but I assure you it's a hard job, our school board, whose one of its most important jobs is to hire a superintendent, extended the contract of our current superintendent, Gillian Chapman, to 2022. We are all in on this goal across the district. Our enrollment trends are contained in the Compass book in front of you, but I would just tell you that we gain about 75 kids a year. Where do they come from? Well, our enrollment has very closely tracked live births at St. John's over the years until just recently. And now we seem to be having more students enrolling than we have live births at St. John's. So people from across the country, as we've heard today, want to live here. So, they come here and we have greater enrollment. In response to that, we are building today, most of you have seen the big construction site down on Hog Island, the Munger Mountain Elementary School. It will be completed, with any luck, by the last week of July of 2018, and we'll put students in it. Maybe not when school starts, but a few weeks thereafter. That will hold 600 kids. It is designated a dual immersion, whole school model school, and we're very excited about that. It is on time, on budget. So that large population of K-5 kids will be moving on to middle school and high school. And we've had capacity until very recently. We're going to have to grow those schools in the not too distant future, as well as having this new elementary school. Some of you may not know that we have 9 schools. My favorites are Kelly Elementary School and Moran Elementary School. They're my favorites because I just went to visit them. And it was really funny at Moran. Remember the whole Betsy DuBois thing where she was talking about bears? Well, that's Moran Elementary School. And the teacher told me recently that when the first grizzly came near the playground, that the children started rushing towards it this time. So they had to go back and do some re-education on how to deal with bears out there. But it's pretty amazing that we have a school right there in the park. Our problems are the same as other agencies' problems with affordable housing. We have built affordable housing out there in Wilson, and we were able to put 11 teaching families in that housing unit. We have a right of first refusal on any sales, so we hope to maintain those units for teachers. Our high school principal, Scott Crisp, if you don't know him, is a really great guy, speaks enthusiastically about the deindustrialization of education. Thankfully, in Teton County, we can do that. We can bring education down to every individual child. And that's what we are striving to do in every way across our district. Our biggest concern, probably for this year, is the legislature. The legislature, if some of you read the newspaper yesterday, Kylie Moore did a great article about how there is some thought that Teton County doesn't need the regional cost of living increase for teacher salaries that we get now. That puts us at 136% of the statewide average. They are talking about 25% reduction in that. We can't afford that, period. So I would ask all of you to contact your legislator, Andy Schwartz, Mike DeRue, Leland Christensen, who are all helping us to try to put together a coalition to make sure that Teton County continues to get the regional cost of living increased. You wouldn't think that that would be really much of a question when our housing prices, according to the Compass magazine, are 365% higher relative to other communities in Wyoming. So just on housing, we need that. Finally, I would just say that I am a huge proponent of public education. I think that many of the problems, not only across this country, but worldwide, reside in the fact that public education is an American principle. It's not everywhere. And we are so lucky. Just think, most of the people in this room are pretty highly educated. What would you be without that education? What would you be if you hadn't graduated from high school? I dare say if you turn to the person next to you and make some speculation, it wouldn't be great. So I thank you for your attention, and thank you for your constant attention to what our schools are doing in this community. If you ever want to go visit a school, please do call up the principal. They'll take you on a tour, and we really welcome an opportunity for you to see just what our schools are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Mead, Miss Isaacson, football, the future of football.
For Michigan State?
For both of you.
Oh.
Is that presently being discussed? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. You know, in light of the cold hard facts about is it CTE and the dangers of having kids get concussions, it certainly weighs heavy, I think, on our board. Almost annually, we are buying new helmets to make sure our kids are very well protected. In Teton County, we have 26 activities. So, you know, sometimes parents say to me, well, why don't we have a better football team, or why don't we have a better basketball team? And I think to myself, well, we would have to cut other sports to get kids to participate in those activities. And we're very lucky that kids get to do a lot of different things. I would say that I think that ultimately it's going to be a parental choice. There are a lot of parents who aren't starting their kids playing football in middle school anymore. And I think nationally that's the same issue that colleges and the NFL are concerned about, is that a lot of parents are saying, I don't want my kids' head to be scrambled at an early age by playing football. So I think that we will see changes in the future, and we're not considering any certainly immediately, but I fear that eventually we will have not enough kids to have teams.
I didn't hear a context in that low score on the reading, in the reading testing, and I was wondering if you had any context or a way to describe what might be contributing to that.
That's PAUSE score, and PAUSE is the state standardized texting that we have. I think a lot of it has to do with, simply children who don't speak English when they come into school. It's harder to get them to the same place as a native speaker at third grade. The state is committed, and national government requires third grade testing. And at times I've thought, well, why don't we just get a waiver? Because we have so many children who don't speak English. And that's really a little bit of a cop-out to me. We've just got to get it done. So that's why our Success 22 work has commenced, and we believe, and I'm confident that we're going to get there so that every kid can read. You know, we have a lot of kids who later on come into school at the high school level, and they don't speak English either. So it's a little tricky there because, as you know, Owen, you know, we don't have a lot of reading teachers at the high school level. But we do it, and that's what our mandate is. We must do it. We must educate these children. So it's really important for us to get it done.
I said, does any of this data point to the excessive use of electronics in young children?
Well, it's possible, but I would say that we're probably making it worse because we have a one-to-one initiative in our school district, so every child, as a matter of equity, has access to a laptop or an iPad. I do think that there is some, you know, in education, I hate to say it, but you can find a study for almost any answer you want to get in education. So, you know, we look to universities like Stanford and some of the California system schools who actually do really good work in education. You know, I haven't seen that, but in our efforts to do the one-on-one, we did a lot of work looking at what benefits there are to technology. And for me, what sold me on it was that when my kids were little, I would go in and help with reading, third grade reading. And, you know, a lot of kids, especially boys, mothers of boys, I'm sure you can relate to this, if they weren't doing well by third grade, they completely disengaged. And that was sort of the end of it. But with a laptop and some of the programs that we use for reading, they do not disengage, which sold me on the idea of continuing with the one-to-one initiative. Now, the little kids don't have computers that they can take home or anything of that nature, but they use them in the classroom. They're an educational tool. They're not a substitute for a great teacher, which we have a lot of those. Thanks.
I have a daughter in the Wyoming Teton County system, and I've talked to a lot of teachers. Their biggest concern when you talk to them is their housing. Many of them commute, and their concern going forward, and I'm sure recruitment is a big objective of yours, if the housing situation doesn't change, how do you see recruitment of excellent teachers going forward?
Well, like all the agencies have spoken here, housing is tough for us. I would say that one thing that differentiates Teton County School Districts from a lot of other employers is that the state of Wyoming has been very generous to us. A beginning teacher begins their teaching career in Teton County at mid-50s with extremely good benefits. Our average teacher salary is around $64,000-65,000. So those folks, particularly if there's a couple and there's another working family member, can afford eventually to get into some sort of housing in Teton County. The harder thing is for single teachers, younger teachers who just come into the district and they're on their own, and it's really hard to find housing for one person. Like lots of other young people in this town and county, they get roommates, they do whatever they can to stay here. I would say, I think one of the differences between us and schools all around the state of Wyoming is a lot of people want to come here and teach. We have a lot of applications for every job we have. And most people come here, and when they interview, you know, people are right up front with them that the cost of living here can be astronomical. But quite frankly, they still come. I think a lot of that is that we have a great reputation as an employer. We want to continue to be the employer of choice in our county. We will be looking more closely at teacherages as time goes by. We have some land down by the Mungler Mountain Elementary School that may be available to put rental homes on for our teachers. It's tough because Wyoming, the way our funding works is that we can only have about 4 months of reserves on hand. So it's a little difficult to build up a nest egg in order to put in housing. But we do have a housing account now. We get housing stipends from the Snake River Sporting Club. Who would have known, right? When that was planned, the developer at that time, Dick Edgecombe, God bless him, wanted to put aside money from each sale for teacher housing. So we get money for that regularly. That account's growing slowly as that development has started really doing well. And so we hope to use some of that money for affordable housing in the future. Thanks.
And with that, we will wrap up this session. I just want to point out that, as I noted before, one of the blessings of living in this region is the quality of the people who are heading up our public agencies. And not only are you guys heading them up, but you're all volunteers. So thank you very much, and please give a round of applause for our panelists.